Welcome to this dramatic therapy monologue. Listen to this meditation with an open mind and heart. In between each part, focus on your breath. Start now by inhaling deeply through your nose and slowly exhaling through your mouth. Then gently turn your attention to the natural rhythms of your breath. I need to tell you the truth. I have always been a bit obsessed with the news. It started when I was a child. My father would come home late, slump into his chair, and flick on the television. The news would pour out, bright and relentless, in that blue humming light. Wars, fires, missing children, politicians shouting at each other like they wanted blood instead of votes. I watched because he watched, and if I could follow the headlines, maybe I could understand what made him so tired, why he barely looked up from his glass when I stood in front of him with a smile. You see, part of me believed deep down that if I understood the world's chaos, maybe I could control the chaos in my house. So I memorized wars and earthquakes and scandals like Bible verses. I thought somehow that if I knew the dangers, if I armed myself with knowledge, the monsters under my bed would leave me alone. Of course, monsters do not much care about dictators or disasters, but I did not know that yet. Fast forward. Picture a grown woman, me, in a dark room, jaw clenched, scrolling. My thumb aches, the blue light stings my eyes, but I cannot stop. The world screams at me from this tiny, trembling screen, and every headline is another reason to be afraid, another sign that nothing will ever be okay again. Every time I try to look away, my mind whispers, "What if you miss something important? What if you are unprepared? What if? Here is the strange part. I work with children now. I teach them to read and write their names and tie their shoes, and sometimes, on lucky golden days, I get to see their first aha moment. You would think that would help, right? You would think that seeing these small miracles would cure me of the poison drip of endless doom. But when the final bell rings and the classroom empties out, I pick up my phone, searching for new disasters, craving the horror like a moth craves flame, and I forget about the victories in my own room. One night, I caught myself in the bathroom mirror, breathing hard, truly looking at myself. I saw someone pale, frightened, and old before her time, a woman whose hands shook because she lived in fear of dangers that never once entered her actual life. And I remembered being that little girl, convinced if I just cared enough, if I just braced hard enough, I could absorb all the shocks in the world before they exploded in my home. I had become an addict, hooked on dread, because somehow, somewhere, I learned that vigilance meant love. My hands gripped the cool sink, a hostage in my own mind. And for a moment, I could almost hear my father's voice again, gruff and quiet. You need to know these things. That was the lesson I took from him, a lesson that made me brittle and raw for years. But now, staring at myself, I wondered, if all I have ever known is threat, how can I see past it? How can I trust any good news when it feels like betrayal to hope? That crisis, it broke something. But sometimes you need to be broken to see the cracks where the light can come in. I began to ask questions, simple ones like, what is the world really? Am I just a canvas for every headline, or do I get to decide what sticks? I started looking deeper. I found quiet stories in the mess of data, global poverty falling, children surviving, people learning to read who never could before. I saw a graph once, a tiny little line on a massive chart, showing how diseases that once haunted the nightmares of whole cities have all but vanished with vaccinations and clean water. I realized these are revolutions that slip by unnoticed, because they are not loud or explosive or wrapped in fear. I want you to listen to me. I'm not preaching naive optimism. I know there are real monsters still, real suffering. My own hands remember their shape, and maybe yours do too. But there is something else, and it is powerful. The world, underneath the noise, is changing, slowly, with tenacity and hope. It is as if the news wants to sell us storms, but every day there are pockets of sunlight, too quiet to make the front page. I started to turn away from that little screen, just for a few minutes at first. I walked outside, felt the air on my face, called my mother to tell her one good thing about my day. I shared small victories with my students, and when the urge to drown in disasters pulled at me, I told myself, breathe. Notice what is real right now, not what is screaming for attention. I told myself, the world is terrible and beautiful, and both at once. I can hold both truths in my heart. I do not need to live in fear to be awake or good. So, here I am, with you. Maybe you have lived a little like this too, hypervigilant, tired, searching for reasons to brace. Maybe today, listening to my voice, You can let your guard down just a fraction. Maybe you can see that progress is not the enemy of caution, but its partner. Imagine a world where we celebrate small, quiet victories as fiercely as we mourn loss. Imagine what we could build if we remembered to look for the pockets of light. Now, breathe with me one last time. Inhale. Hold the hope in your lungs. Exhale. Let the fears unwind. You do not have to absorb the pain of the world to deserve to live in it. There is beauty hidden beneath the headlines, in the laughter of a child, the healing of a wound, the courage it takes to look for good after years of expecting bad. That courage is yours. Take it. Stand in the light for as long as you can, and when the darkness comes back, remember, the world is wider and kinder than you were ever led to believe. That is not a fantasy. That, my friend, is the truth.